All right, it is time for comment, context, and free thought on a day the country finally begins the process of sending the unwanted IEBC commissioners home.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to News Sources. My name is James Smart. Let's get into it. Parliament has today started the process of kicking out the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. A petition by a political scientist forms the basis of the hearings. The petitioner invokes the auditor's report, which says that IBC has failed to account for monies as reason enough to send the commissioners home. Welcome to the program, everyone.
Welcome. So today we're joined by Robin Toskin, Associate Editor of Sports right here at The Standard, and Richard Bosira, News Editor at Radio Citizen, and of course co-host James Smart.
Good, jolly. So, ladies, gentlemen, that's what it is. IBC, finally, we have some semblance of IBC going home, right? Who wants to have the first go? Robin.
Oh, thank you very much, Smart. And the question that everyone should be asking himself is that why now? Because if it is the parliament that it has to send home this IEBC, then why then did we have to wait all this time? People to get injured in demonstrations, parliamentarians going out there and then inflaming emotions by way of saying that there are strategies by either side, to cause chaos in this country. We saw all these street demonstrations, all in the name of wanting to send home this IEBC. If these people knew that this is the process, then why did it take this long?
Mm-hmm. Richard, is it taking long, or really just that, political reason today makes sense that, it's untenable for IBC to be in office?
Yeah.
And both have decided, well, these guys must go home.
I think what happened today is a step in the right direction, because now the committee has like 14 days to report back to Parliament. And what people are saying, most likely, the mood in the House is that MPs are likely to recommend for the President to form a tribunal to send home the commissioners. And but the problem is most of the commissioners are not ready to step down. Only 4 have so far offered to resign. And maybe we are likely to end up forming a tribunal to send home the commissioners.
All right. My feeling about this thing is that, one, we are getting into troubled waters in the sense that the earliest we can have a new IEBC is possibly around December or January. With this process, whether we form a tribunal, whether Parliament decides, to send these people home by any other means, amending the laws, or whatever the thing. And that's assuming that none of the commissioners is going to take their rightful, place, which is to say, I can contest this and go to court and put the whole matter into a spin. Having said that, who thinks that we can have that election in August? Is it even possible?
Well, it's within the law to have the election on August 7th. I think it's the second Tuesday of August, 4 years or 5 years later. So that's the way it should be, and I think we should honor that date, because lately we've been breaking all kinds of laws here, there, and everywhere. And in particular, about this IEBC and this petition brought by this common citizen, this is how it should have been in the beginning. It should have been a petition, and then Parliament recommends to the President to form a tribunal. So like Toskin has said, we've gone round in circles and then come back right where we should have been. And encouraging for me, at least, that it's a citizen who did it. So we're not that clueless.
Yeah.
Well, it's not the first time. It's not the first time.
It's not the first.
Showed up with a petition.
Yeah, the ODM activists
Yes.
he petitioned Parliament last year to send home the IBC commissioners, but the petition was dismissed by the House.
It's just that the mood in the country has changed right now, isn't it? Everyone has sort of gotten round to the idea that we cannot have this IEBC conduct this election.
But then should it be the mood that should guide this nation? I thought we put in place a constitution that needs to guide every facet of life. And if we are going by the mood, then it means again that we are putting the cart before the horses. If we are going to craft a way of removing IEBC, I see a situation where IEBC officials will have to go back to court and then contest this decision, because the law has to be amended first so as to maybe enable us maybe to try and send home the IEBC. If that cannot be done before the select committee sits down to craft that way, and then we are seeing problems, coming in the future.
Okay, talking of the constitution, I think we're in a fix. We cannot change the election date unless we do a referendum.
No, I don't think we do. I think it's a constitutional, a change which just needs, a simple parliamentary majority of 2/3. But it has to stay for 90 days inside Parliament for us to fix it. So it can still be changed. If the mood of this country today decides
But
that we
if
cannot
they
have this
change the
election,
election date in Parliament, I'm sure one Kenyan or two will move to court and stop it because the court said the election must be held in August, the second week.
exactly. I mean, it's,
Yeah, well, the courts are the new Kenyan way. Everything that happens, you go to court. Your pet dies, you go to court. You know, everything is a litigation process. But I think, Toscan, the mood of the people is important. Like we've seen with Brexit, the mood of the people is actually changing the tide, and they might actually, the English Parliament might actually reconsider going back into the EU because of the mood of the people. Because at the end of the day, we're the ones that matter. We put those people there to serve us, so they should actually be paying attention to our moods and our rational thought when it comes to what they're doing. Don't you think so?
It's important to have a rational thought, put everything into perspective. But the moment you get to the streets to protest over the way the IEBC is constituted, then you lose sight of what needs to be done.
Toscan, we've already passed this debate of going to the streets.
Yeah.
It is constitutional for people to practice their right to go on the street and demonstrate. We are past it. Now we are about something
but
else.
then it informs the way we view the IEBC. Everything that we want to IEBC to be reconstituted is based on all our emotions put together. But now, like you asked about August, if we are going to be guided again by the mood, then we can rush through again the constitutional making process to the detriment again of what we want to achieve. So I think it is important that we put back everything that is driven by emotion.
That I think I see. That getting the IBC commissioners to go home appears to be the easiest part. It appears to be something that we can all come around and agree and find ways and means to take them home, all right, and bully them if we must to go home. The difficult part is this, that when we get to December or January, when we can have new commissioners get into office, what mandate do they have? What are they coming? Are they coming to vet the process that has been there before to go to an election 7 months? Are they just going to supervise what the Secretariat is doing? Are we confident with what's happening in the Secretariat? I think those are problems that no one is investigating, and they are fundamental and they're huge and they're big.
Yeah. In fact, CORD is saying we also send them the Secretariat of IEBC, and Jubilee is opposing that one. And there's also another standoff on how to pick the new commissioners if we send them the current commissioners, because CORD is insisting that we use the IPPG route. Political parties should be allowed to select the commissioners. But Jubilee is saying we follow the constitution, the route that is picking the commissioners with a team formed from the PSC, Parliament, and other organizations.
Yeah, I think there was a problem with picking them because there's actually no legal provision to actually select commissioners at this point in time. So they have to enact a law to actually pick them, nominate them, and appoint them, which I don't know at which point that will happen. Like you're saying, James, on the timetable between now and December and August next year, can all these things happen? But in a country like Canada, things have happened faster. Different things have happened fast in this country depending on who wants them to happen. So it should be possible.
And I have problems when the political parties are involved. If you look at our multi-party democracy history, right from 1991 all the way, there's no single party that has stayed for all that time that we can now entrust, begin to believe them that they can bring all these changes. What we see is that political parties are always morphing into a different thing altogether.
The same forest, the same monkeys, the same guys.
Yeah,
I mean, the guys who are in Kanu in 1995, the same guys in Jubilee Court.
Which is the folly now of involving these parties.
So speaking of IEBC and the things that are going on around it, that's just one part of the story. A negotiated deal between Jubilee and CORD that saw birth of a joint select committee is also in the works. The committee has 30 days to hear views from the public and other stakeholders. All these efforts are geared to kick IEBC out of office, which raises the question, why are the commissioners still hanging on? Yes, why are they hanging on? Will not resign on pain of death.
I think like the chairman Isaac Hassan said, we are accusing them of bungling the last elections. We are accusing them of corruption and other allegations. He said that they cannot just step down because we will accuse them and maybe take them to court. So he's saying their names are clean, and if they step down after the public pressure, maybe their future, their careers will be destroyed. Like the other commissioners who are removed, most of them cannot even be employed anywhere. So they want to clear their names before they exit.
They want to sanitize their names, if
Yeah.
you will. But you know, we all forget about Chicken Gate, where 2 people in the UK have been convicted and jailed for actually transacting in a corrupt way with these very Kenyan officials. So on that basis alone, don't you think that they should be stepping aside?
Has
or-
anyone ever been jailed in Kenya?
They haven't, but you know, we have. If 2 people have been jailed in the UK for dealing with these particular people in Kenya, then it implies that they're also guilty. Is my
Well,
way of thinking.
So they would argue that's a UK standard. It's UK have different laws and Kenya has different laws, and you know what they were charging the UK is fairly different with what you'd charge, you know, you'd say commissioners here. You know, it's different standards, and that they're right in that sense. The problem I think with the whole, you know, IEBC or the commissioners is a question I think of, you know, the integrity, conscience, and I mean we just, you know, saw a whole prime minister hours after an election come out and say the people have spoken, and on that basis I feel I'm not the right person to continue in this office. The country needs someone else. Okay, he hadn't done, I mean, fundamentally anything wrong. I mean, he had miscalculated his political moves, but it was not something any fundamental. He could have hung on up to 2018
Yes.
because he had a mandate a few months ago to lead these people. So I think it's that question that in this country, how we view public office, our level of integrity or, you know, consciousness or stuff like that. That's my view. I could be wrong.
No, it's okay because one thing we've seen in this country is that there's always lack of political goodwill, be it from the people in government at the time or even parliament. And the worst of a form of that lack of political goodwill is what we've witnessed in this current parliament. That Wafula Buke took a document to parliament, petitioned these guys that, look, there's something wrong with the IEBC. These guys need to account for ABCD. And we've seen that some people have been convicted in England. But parliament just looked away. Yet these are the people that we expected them to execute this on behalf of Kenyans. And therefore, I find it, you know, to be really you know, preposterous on the part of Parliament and even in the Senate to start saying that they can initiate this process and take us forward. It's really not.
I think the problem is not Parliament alone. We also have other arms of the government and agencies like anti-corruption, EACC. They investigated the claims and they cleared all. I think they haven't cleared the commissioners, but other arms of government are letting down Kenyans, even the judiciary.
But you see, Parliament has a lot of power to actually make change, and they can make that change fairly quickly, but they seem always to be dragging their feet or thinking about other interests. And actually, I agree with Toskin when you talk about somebody bringing a petition before, and that's the way it should have been. But then now taking so long to come back to the right way of doing things. Because my problem with this particular selection panel, I think, is that it's unlawful. Because the procedure has been set out.
It is unlawful.
So this is completely extrajudicial. So it kind of, which direction are we going in if we can't even follow the rules and the laws that we set down?
I think where we are heading to, we should first reform our electoral body before heading to the elections, because we want all Kenyans to have trust in the electoral body. Because if one side doesn't trust the electoral body, we will have problems in future. And after that, we also need to clean our judiciary. Remember, we have problems back in the judiciary. And if we don't do it right now, maybe we'll have problems in future. After the elections, we'll have like 200 petitions.
I agree with you, but the point is we should remove them in the way that is prescribed. Yes, to set actually a precedent of how things are supposed to be done. Otherwise, then we'll just have all manner of problems, in addition to a bad election.
Because the problem of that is that once we change the laws, you know, and you know, figure out a new way of, you know, kicking them out, we're assuming that out of the goodness of their hearts, they would go home, you know, quietly and lying down. That's a big problem. I don't think that will happen. I think that, you know, someone would decide to take their constitutional right and exercise it and go to court and say, hang on, I was employed on certain terms, and for some strange reason, you know, laws have been changed midway, and ask for this process to be halted, you know, until, you know, some form of the court, you know, and that keeps, you know, maybe could take a month, 2 months, 3 months, who knows?
But we should not let the politicians to drive this agenda up to the end, because you cannot trust them. I think other stakeholders like the church and the civil society should also be included in this agenda of reforming the IEBC.
Including the media. What have you done as the media, also us as the media? What have we done to shape that agenda? I think it is very important that we also play our role, and then let's get guys, you know, banging home this point that it's important for that the constitution is followed. About a month ago, I penned an article blaming the so-called reformists, the guys we all have in parliament, and I always want to go back to people like James Orengo. You know, he's done a lot also in expanding the democratic space, but they are not doing enough to make sure these reforms are seen.
Let's kick the conversation forward. CODE is meanwhile accusing the Jubilee coalition of hatching a scheme to weaken the opposition. CODE leader Raila Odinga, while on a tour in Busia County, said that the ruling coalition was buying the support of CODE members. DP William Ruto denied the accusation, saying the days of the slave trade were over. So who's fooling who? Let's take a listen.
Hatuogopi Jubilee. Ruto anasema tunaweza kukaranga sisi. Yeye ni nani anaweza kukaranga sisi? Yeye ni atakarangwa.
All right. So that's where we go. So who's buying who? In terms of, you know, and I think that there's some level of substance in this. The number of CODE MPs or ODM MPs who've crossed the floor to Jubilee side, I don't know what gives. I mean, have they finally realized that Jubilee has better policies, development, all of a sudden? What is it?
I think the grass is greener on the other side. And as we head to 2017, you'll see most MPs who are not loyal, very loyal to ODM or the opposition will cross over to the government. It happens a lot, and we'll see realignment everywhere as we head to the 2017 general elections. And this is not
this realignment based on money. It's based on handouts.
And that's why when I listen to the former Prime Minister talk like that, and I ask myself, doesn't he even remember in 1997 when he also crossed over from his NDP and joined the Kano government? At the time that we wanted to have someone strong enough to stand up against the government and criticize, he crossed over. He must remember that he also betrayed so many other people. So when it was him doing that,
when
it
he was
okay.
him doing the crossing.
Doing the crossing.
Yes.
But now that his charges, I've now seen the green grass and the other green grass yonder, he thinks that they are being, he says that they are being bought. I think it's time that we say the truth, that if you are in one political party, please stay true to the principles and the ideals of those political parties. The problem is we don't have even those political parties. They are all just tribal outfits.
Yeah, so perhaps it's time to have like two distinct camps. Camp A, Camp B, and you choose a side and you stick on that side. Or if you cross and stay for a few years, so we have some kind of confidence in you. But second thing, when I think about this story and the deputy president saying that it's not the slave trade, people are not bought anymore, I just start thinking, what about me? What about the citizens? These people are doing all sorts of political shenanigans. Games going here, there, and everywhere, musical chairs, changing positions. And what's happening to us? What have they done for us lately, is my question.
There's a term they call it working with the government in the political circles. I don't know what it means to Kenyans or the public, but those MPs who are collaborating with the government, they say they are bringing development to their people because the opposition has nothing to offer Kenyans. That's what they say, but that's not true. We have county governments in every county, whether you're in opposition or you're in government. So the county government should provide services to the Wananchi without opposition MPs working with the government.
With the government for development, quote unquote.
We lack people of integrity. I think we are short on that end, because even you guys in the media, let's look at the political... Are you
excluding yourself?
You guys in the media?
Guys in the media.
We guys in the media. I'm in the sports arena.
And sports is what?
In politics. We have politics there. Right. Still, we've seen that at every change of government, we've seen exodus of media people, even going to work in State House, going to work in government positions. You know, they are following maybe the green grass.
But
why don't we stand?
Hang on, they're professionals, and your country has asked for your kind of talent or expertise that you have.
Your service.
It's entirely entirely right.
And that's why then
there's
we
nothing
shouldn't
wrong.
be standing
No,
on platforms to accuse other people of crossing over to other places.
No, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that if somebody's doing wrong, you keep quiet because you've done something wrong yourself, Toskin.
Well, I have a problem with the State House tea, all right?
Yeah.
You know, that's something very different, you know, when, you know, Bosire and crew and everyone else go to have tea, you know. That I think, in terms of, I mean, there's nothing wrong with working with government, in essence, because it's one government. I mean, Kenya would always have one government at a time, all right, whether we like it or not. And I think it's the way that it's being used in terms of weakening the political parties and its strength. And the fact that if I belong to, say, Wiper Democratic Movement, and I invite, say, Uhuru Kenyatta to my constituency, that appears to be, I've sort of defiled the party, all right? And it shouldn't be like that. So we should be mature enough, in a sense that we can be able to have this work with the government of the day, but also be mature enough to stick to principles, to stick to the party that has sponsored me, you, to, you know, governorship, or to, you know, the parliament or whatever. That's what we seem to not have.
In 2002, when NAC came into power, the then President Mwai Kibaki went out to cannibalize KANU. KANU had the widest reach in this country. But as we speak today, I think KANU has maybe some presence in other districts. They don't have other presence in others. That was then. But what they were doing, they all do that in the name of forming the government of national unity. That is just a dressed up way of cannibalizing other parties or enabling other people to cross over. And I think the time of forming governments of national unity should be gone, so that we leave guys criticize the government from wherever you are, so that we build a strong opposition and a strong government.
Well, I think we do have a strong opposition. The problem is it comes back to, I guess, the rich-poor divide, or the power of money in this country to sway people's emotions and principles and the things that they believe in. And I don't think it's going to change anytime soon if we keep on campaigning on ethnicity and personality as opposed to actual issues. Some people say we're too young as a democracy to actually campaign on serious development issues, but I think we should move beyond the whole Raila or Uhuru personality type, Kikuyu, Luo, or whatever else type of politics, to a place where you cannot be swayed once you take a position.
Untitled Chapter is a good place to start.
I think we should maybe like have 3 political parties to end these briefcase parties of people who are hawking parties throughout the town. And I think this will end tribalism if we have like 3 or 4 parties only, instead of like right now we have like 70. Yeah, some are just briefcase parties.
But that's a prescription. And who is there to prescribe that we should have 1 or 2 political parties? I think the most important thing is for you guys now, the people of integrity, to stand up and say, really, we shouldn't be crossing to the green grass yonder, and then stay true to our principles.
You have a Kura court, but he's a lone ranger. Nobody's supporting him. So Kenyans like those politicians who maybe they are kingpins or tribal chiefs. Like Ekura Court, you think he has a long way to go.
It's unfortunate because he comes from a minority tribe and he should be able to get into office, but this is the way Kenya is. But moving on, and if your trust in politicians had increased after that lunch at Kosewe, well, here is some breaking news. Moses Kuria and Ferdinand Waititu are now accusing co-leader Raila Odinga of taking political advantage over the arrest situation. The duo claim, having come back to their political senses, that no agreement was reached in that cold cell in Pangani.
Mimi na mwenzangu Kuria hapa na wale wengine, polisi walitufungia katika seli moja wakifikiri tutapigana, lakini tulitoka tukishikana mikono kama chanda na pete.
Huku nje nyinyi mnapigana. Sasa sisi nyinyi ndio mmepotea bwana.
We believe very strongly that any Kenyan individual is presumed to be innocent until there is due process. That if you are arrested by the police, you must be entitled to your other civil rights until you have been tried and convicted by a court of law.
Yeah, so it seems that Moses Kuria is still on a roll. We're still going with this, and now he's claiming that Raila Odinga is an impediment to peace in this country because they made agreements and then the agreements were broken because they agreed on peace caravans, and now he's saying that Raila is campaigning for the ODM, etc., instead of preaching peace. I really don't know what to make of this.
I think the Pangani 6, it was this was bound to happen. They were not going to unite at all because these are hardliners from both sides. If you look at Moses Kuria and Johnson Muthama, Aisha Jumwa, those are hardliners from the both coalitions. So I think that was the end of the Pangani 6. That was the last meal when they had the Kosei lunch. The last supper. It was the last supper. You wouldn't see them eating
I wonder
again
who was
together.
Jesus and who was Judas. But anyhow.
My problem with this story is that we continue to allow in this country politicians to appropriate our history, and take things that are important to us and make jokes out of them. I think the 4 days in Pangani, there are Kenyans as we speak tonight who are in that cold cell, and we're not making a big deal out of it. We went out of our way and did headlines for 3-4 days on how the conditions that, our MPs are facing and whatnot. And they're horrid, and Kenyans are facing these conditions every single day. We walked away from the story to tell the story of the political class, and then they're walking away from the story that they told us that day, and they're walking to something else. That's my problem with this story.
How I wish, Smart and Julie, that you would have brought here Philip Etale, the communications guy of CORD and ODM. I think the sad truth here is that really Raila has really reduced himself to a position where he can be exposed to ridicule. It was always bound to happen. Who between Raila and Kuria can offer advice to this country? For him to agree to go and have lunch with Moses Kuria, he should know that that is just a prank by the Jubilee side of this nation. Just to allow, to put Raila in a position where he's, exchanging words with Kuria, yet the Jubilee government is just going ahead with their plans to see on how to maintain power come 2017. That is the sad truth.
I don't think there's a problem with Raila having lunch with Kuria, because even having lunch with those small court guys like Midiu and the rest. So it's okay.
It was predictable. Now Kuria has come out to say he took advantage of our situation. Those are the Kakasungura, Kakadubu stories. It was always bound to happen.
Toscan, I think we can agree that the politicians are probably the brightest of all of us in this country, because they're doing all this and we're sitting back and watching it with popcorn and bubblegum and thinking like it's entertainment. But as I say again, what have they done for us lately? I think these things that they're doing, they know very well what they're doing and what the plan is and the long-term and the short-term view of it. But where do we step in and change the narrative, like James is saying? When do we reclaim our rightful place?
Did you see the cartoon today, Gado's cartoon
Yes.
The Standard? What was happening there?
Very well illustrated. Everyone talking about 2016, which is a kite in the air. And
2022.
Yeah, 2022, sorry.
2022.
Yes.
We are not even in the 2017 mode. Someone is talking about 2022. So that's what the politicians are doing to us.
Which is making my point, because we're all being distracted by stuff which is not important and missing actually the bigger picture and what's actually happening.
Yeah, in fact, those politicians who are talking about 2022, they should tell us about Vision 2030. We don't care about 2022. Who cares about 2022?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good place to be. Let's talk about Vision 2030. At the moment, we want to talk about Vision 830. Taking a short break. Isos is coming right up. Don't go too far.